A fraction is a part of a whole. So the classic example we can think about is a pie, and taking that pie and dividing it into various slices. So here, if I do it like this, I've divided it into 2 slices. Here, if I do this, I've divided it into 4 slices. And if I were to go on and do this, then I have now divided it into 8 slices. So if I choose one of these slices, or if I shade one of these slices, then I have shaded 1 out of the 8 total slices. All right, I've shaded 1 slice out of the 8 total slices, and that is the fraction 1/8. This is 1 out of the 8 total possibilities. So let's define this fraction. Top part of the fraction here, this is called the numerator. This is called the numerator. It's the top of the fraction. This is how many pieces of the pie I'm dealing with. So in this case, we've shaded 1 out of the 8. This bottom part is called the denominator. This tells us how many total slices of the pie that we have. So we have 8 total slices, and I've shaded 1 so that we have the fraction 1/8. This line is called the fraction bar. And the fraction bar is equal to a division sign. You can think about it as division sign. So if I have the fraction 1/8, I'm literally saying 1 divided into 8 parts. 1 divided into 8 parts. And if you like, you can write it like this in long division format. 1 divided into 8 parts. So this is the fraction 1/8. If I were to shade 2 parts of this pie, then I would have the fraction 2/8. 2 out of 8. All right, so that would be 2/8. If I were to continue shading, this would give me 3/8. If I shade again, this gives me 4/8. All right, 4/8, and you can see, is equal to 1/2, and we'll get to that a little bit later. So these are the basic parts of the standard fraction. We have the numerator, we have the fraction bar, which is basically a division sign, and we have the denominator. Some fractions we have are called improper fractions. So what we just spoke about with the example of 1/8, these are examples of proper fractions. All right. Proper fraction is where the numerator is less than the denominator. The numerator is smaller than the denominator. These are called proper fractions. An improper fraction occurs if I have a numerator that is larger than my denominator. So, for example, 5/4 is an improper fraction because my numerator, the top part, is larger than my denominator. So what would that look like? So now, if I think about this, I have 2 pies. All right, so let's say I have 2 pies, and each pie is divided into fourths. So let's divide this one into fourths, and then let's divide this one into fourths. Okay, so to create 5/4, we have to shade 5, a little bit of perfectionist there. We have to shade 5 of our fourths pieces. Okay, so let's shade 5 of the fourths. So if we shade, there's 1/4, this will be 2/4, this will be 3/4, this will be 4/4, which is 1 whole pie, and then 1 more piece. This gives us 5/4. So this is 5/4. It's an improper fraction. All right, and if you look, you see what we have. We have 1 whole, and then we have 1/4. So we can also write improper fractions as another type of fraction, which is called a mixed number. All right, so a mixed number is a whole number and a fraction written together. So with this same example of 5/4, we see that we have 1 whole, so I could write this as 1, and we have 1/4. So 1 and 1/4. So 5/4, the improper fraction is equal to 1 1/4. All right, so a mixed number is literally writing a whole number and a fraction. So mathematically, I'm literally saying 1 plus 1/4, but we can write it as 1 1/4, and these are equivalent. All right, these are improper fractions and mixed numbers. So another example, if I were to, let's say, have this example. So let me draw some pies, and it doesn't have to be pies, it can be any shape. We're just dealing with parts of it and pretending that those are all equal. This time I'm going to divide them into thirds like this. Looks kind of like the old school peace sign, something like that. So we're going to divide each of these pies that we're pretending are the same size exactly into thirds. And then I'm going to shade a certain number of my thirds in order to represent a mixed number and an improper fraction. So if I shade 1/3, 2/3, 3/3, 4/3, 5/3, 6/3, 7/3, 8/3, okay? This is what this looks like. So this is the improper fraction 8/3, right? I have 8 of my thirds shaded. So this represents 8/3. So I want to know, what is this going to be as a mixed number? Well, as a mixed number, I see that I have 2 whole pies shaded. So my whole number part of my mixed number will be 2. And then I have 2 of this thirds pie shaded. So I have 2 2/3. All right, so 8/3 is equivalent to 2 2/3. So these are the basics of fractions. Proper fractions, numerator less than denominator. Improper fractions, numerator greater than denominator. Mixed number, a whole number plus a fraction.